Germany stands as a bedrock of European stability. It is the continent's largest economy. Coalition governments, carefully negotiated, have been the norm for decades. The recent collapse of Germany's ruling coalition throws this delicate balance into question. It has sent shockwaves through the country and beyond. Germany's traditional role as a stabilizing force in Europe is now uncertain. The collapse raises questions about the future direction of the country. Understanding this crisis requires a closer look at the coalition itself. Coalition governments are a feature of many democracies. They often arise when no single party achieves a majority. In Germany, they have been particularly important. Coalitions, though sometimes unwieldy, were seen as the best way to ensure broad representation. However, coalitions are inherently fragile. They require compromise. In times of crisis, these internal tensions can quickly escalate. Differing responses to major challenges can expose fault lines within a coalition. The latest German coalition government, formed in late 2021, was an ambitious undertaking. It brought together three parties with distinct political identities. The center-left Social Democratic Party, SPD, led by Olaf Scholz, emerged as the largest party. To their left, the Green pushed for ambitious climate action and social reforms. Completing this trio was the pro-business Free Democratic Party, FDP, led by Christian Lindner. The coalition agreement outlined goals like tackling climate change and modernizing infrastructure. On the international stage, the coalition aimed to strengthen the European Union. The new government, dubbed the Traffic Light Coalition, took office with optimism. The coalition partners emphasized their shared commitment to modernization. However, the challenges of governing quickly became apparent. Disagreements over economic policy emerged early on. The war in Ukraine added further strain. The conflict forced Germany to confront difficult questions about its energy dependence on Russia. These issues exposed deep divisions within the coalition. The first major crack in the coalition's unity appeared over climate policy. The Greens pushed for a rapid phase out of fossil fuels. This put them on a collision course with the FDP, who viewed such measures as economically reckless. The FDP argued for a more cautious approach to climate action. These fundamental differences in ideology led to heated debates within the coalition. The media seized on these disagreements, highlighting the growing rift. The coalition's internal tensions reached a boiling point with the controversial heating hammer proposal. This legislation aimed to ban the installation of new gas and oil heating systems in buildings. The FDP sided with the critics, denouncing the measure as bureaucratic overreach. The SPD tried to broker a compromise but struggled to appease both sides. The ensuing public debate was acrimonious, further eroding trust within the coalition. The heating hammer episode exposed the fragility of the coalition's unity. The cumulative effect of these disagreements took a heavy toll on the coalition. The once hopeful atmosphere of cooperation gave way to suspicion and animosity. Policy decisions became increasingly bogged down in protracted negotiations. By early 2024, the coalition was in a state of paralysis. The FDP began to openly question the viability of the coalition. The final straw came with a disagreement over the national budget. This led to the FDP's dramatic withdrawal from the coalition and the government's subsequent collapse. The collapse of Germany's coalition was the culmination of deep-seated ideological differences. From the outset, the three parties represented a spectrum of political thought. The Greens pushed for rapid and far-reaching reforms. This alarmed the FDP, who saw their traditional business-friendly platform under threat. The heating hammer controversy exemplified this ideological divide. This battle over climate policy became a proxy war for a larger struggle over the role of the state in the economy. The coalition agreement failed to bridge this fundamental ideological chasm. The Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 exacerbated coalition tensions. The war forced Germany to confront uncomfortable truths about its energy dependence on Russia. The Greens advocated for a swift and decisive response. This put them at odds with the SPD, which had traditionally favored a more conciliatory approach. The FDP expressed concerns about the economic impact of sanctions on Russia. The lack of a unified response to this crisis further strained relations within the government. The coalition's demise cannot be attributed solely to ideological differences or external shocks. A perceived lack of leadership from Chancellor Olaf Scholz also played a significant role. Scholz often appeared detached and hesitant in the face of mounting challenges. His attempts to bridge the gap between the FDP and the Greens proved insufficient. Critics accused Scholz of lacking the vision and communication skills necessary to steer the coalition. The absence of a strong leader allowed internal divisions to fester and ultimately led to a paralysis of government. The collapse of the German coalition cannot be understood without examining Olaf Scholz and Christian Lindner. Scholz entered the chancellery with a reputation for quiet competence. However, his understated style proved ill-suited to managing the coalition's inherent tensions. Lindner, the FDP leader, wielded his party's position to extract concessions. His focus on fiscal discipline often clashed with the SPD and Greens' ambitions. The relationship between Scholz and Lindner deteriorated as the coalition faced mounting challenges. Their inability to find common ground on key issues ultimately proved fatal to the government's survival. Annalena Baerbock, co-leader of the Greens, entered the coalition as foreign minister. Baerbock brought a sense of urgency and idealism to the government. Her strong stance on the war in Ukraine contrasted with the SPD's more hesitant approach. The Greens pushed for ambitious policy changes, often testing the limits of the coalition's unity. This assertive stance alienated the FDP and fueled perceptions of ideological purity over pragmatic governance. The FDP increasingly positioned themselves as a counterweight to what they saw as an excessive leftward shift. The collapse of Germany's coalition government sent shockwaves through the country's political landscape. The immediate aftermath was one of uncertainty and recrimination. The carefully crafted power-sharing agreement lay in tatters. Accusations flew between the former coalition partners. The FDP insisted they had no choice but to draw a line against reckless spending. The Greens accused the FDP of prioritizing narrow economic interests over urgent climate action. The political fallout was immediate and far-reaching. The most pressing consequence of the coalition's collapse was the sudden absence of a functioning government. Germany faced a period of prolonged uncertainty with no clear path forward. The possibility of a snap election loomed large. The economic outlook darkened further as businesses and investors grappled with the political instability. The political vacuum had the potential to undermine Germany's standing on the world stage. As Europe's largest economy, Germany's stability was crucial for regional and global affairs. The international community watched anxiously, uncertain of what the future held for Germany. The tremors of Germany's political earthquake were felt far beyond its borders. For decades, Germany has been a cornerstone of the European Union. The collapse of the coalition government cast a long shadow over the European project. The European Union now faced the unsettling prospect of a weakened Germany. The timing of the crisis could not have been worse for the EU. Germany's political paralysis threatened to undermine the EU's collective response to Russian aggression. The absence of a strong German leadership also had implications for the EU's economic and financial stability. The implications of Germany's political crisis extended beyond Europe, reverberating across the global stage. Germany, under Angela Merkel's long tenure as chancellor, had emerged as a reliable and predictable actor on the world stage, a champion of multilateralism, and a voice of moderation in an increasingly polarized world. The collapse of the coalition government, however, raised questions about Germany's future foreign policy direction and its willingness to shoulder the mantle of global leadership. The world watched anxiously, uncertain of what a politically fractured Germany might mean for the international order. The crisis in Berlin came at a time of heightened geopolitical uncertainty, with the rules-based international order under strain from multiple directions. The rise of China, The resurgence of Russia and the retreat of the United States from its traditional global leadership role had created a power vacuum, leaving a void for other nations to fill. Germany, with its economic weight, diplomatic clout, and commitment to multilateralism, was seen as a potential candidate to step up and play a more assertive role on the world stage. However, the political turmoil at home cast doubt on Germany's ability to project power and influence beyond its borders. The collapse of Germany's coalition government marked a watershed moment in the country's post-war history. It shattered the illusion of political stability and predictability that had long defined German politics, leaving a nation grappling with uncertainty and a sense of drift. The carefully constructed edifice of consensus-based governance, once a source of national pride, lay in ruins, exposing the deep-seated ideological fissures that had been papered over for years. The traffic light experiment, born of hope and ambition, had faltered, leaving behind a legacy of recrimination and a profound sense of disappointment. The crisis, however, also presented an opportunity for reflection and renewal. The collapse of the coalition forced Germany to confront uncomfortable truths about its political system, its economic model, and its place in the world. The old certainties had vanished, replaced by a sense of fluidity and a recognition that the country could no longer afford to rest on its laurels. Germany stood at a crossroads, facing a choice between retreating into introspection and division or seizing the moment to forge a new path, one that acknowledged the challenges of the 21st century and embraced the need for change. The outcome of Germany's internal reckoning will have profound implications not only for the country itself, but also for Europe and the world. A strong, stable, and outward-looking Germany is essential for the European project, for global security, and for the defense of democratic values in an increasingly uncertain world. The stakes could not be higher. The world watches and waits, hoping that Germany will rise to the challenge, drawing on its history of resilience, its commitment to international cooperation, and its capacity for innovation. The path forward will undoubtedly be fraught with difficulty. Germany must navigate a complex and rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape, grappling with the challenges of climate change, economic uncertainty, and a resurgent Russia. To succeed, Germany will need to rediscover its sense of purpose, heal the divisions that have emerged in recent years, and articulate a clear vision for the future. The world is watching, hoping that Germany will once again embrace its role as a beacon of stability, a champion of democracy, and a force for good in the world.